Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. This is our lambing preparation video. We are about a week away from having lambs here on the farm and we had a lot to get ready. We had lambing pens to set up, we've had heat lamps to put in, and as long as gathering all of our equipment to make sure everything is rocking and rolling and ready to go for when that first lambs drop. But if you want to stay live and up to date with our farm, you can go follow us on Instagram because that's where the newest updates will be. On our farm Instagram, I've posted over the last couple of days videos of our preparations. So they're broke into 2 reels. So I'll just insert those clips right now. Me as we prepare for lambing part 1. Today's job was just to put straw in the 3 lambing pens that we already previously set up. And I just wanted to spread that straw out so it was nice and comfortable for when those lambs arrive. Come with me to hang heat lamps in preparation for lambs. The heat lamps we use are from Premier One. I will put the link for these down below. These heat lamps are a lot safer than the classic metal ones because they are made out of a heavy-duty plastic, which allows the heat lamp to not get as hot on the outside as it would a metal one. We do not plug the heat lamps in until there is a ewe in the lambing pen with her lambs. Once the heat lamps are hung, all we have to do is put water and feed troughs in the pens, and then the lambing pens are ready. And now all we have to do is wait for lambs. Steam Valley Farms has been raising sheep for a little over 10 years now. This is our biggest lambing group yet. We have about 17 ewes that are going to lamb starting here within the next week or so. And these are the supplies that we have found most useful to use during our lambing season to help it go and run as smoothly as it possibly can. The first thing that I find the most useful is having a little container that has everything that I need in, that's easy access so I can get to it wherever, which is this cart that is right behind me. It's just one of those small containers that you can get at your local store, Walmart or whatever. And everything just fits in the top drawer. It has wheels on it so I can roll it if I want to, but sometimes it's easier just to pick it up and go. It just depends on where I need it at that time. But everything that I need in a moment is all in that box. So all the supplies that we have either come from Tractor Supply or Premier One. It just depends on what the item is, but that's usually where you can get most in all of your supplies. So the first thing that we have in our box is gloves. We use gloves for pretty much everything. Some people prefer not to use them, but we like to use them just because when lambs come out, they're very slimy. And that way we could just easily change in between things. And that way we're not getting all of our equipment all slimy that doesn't need to be slimed because of our hands being all dirty. So these are just plain gloves. You can get them Tractor Supply, Walmart, anywhere you could possibly think of. Amazon probably. The next thing we have is OB gloves, which these are nice just to have on hand just in case you need to reach in and help you for assistance. But other than that, they just kind of sit in the box because they come all the way up to here. So it's kind of a nuisance when you don't need them. The next thing we have is iodine, so we can spray the lamb's umbilical cord. Usually an hour to 2 hours after they are born, just so that the ewe doesn't lick off the iodine. The iodine is used to prevent infection for the newborn lamb. The next thing we have, which is extremely important, is this, which I'm not sure what the technical name is for this. But when lambs come out, or sometimes if they're stuck, they get a lot of mucus and junk in their nose. So this thing, you can just go into their nose, suck out all the gunk that's in there, and then that way the lamb can breathe, because a lot of people will just swing the lamb, and this is sometimes better on the lamb right after they're born. This is actually meant for babies and toddlers and stuff. So you can get it wherever that stuff is sold around you. The next thing that I have are these, which are bottle caps. Instead of buying an actual bottle, you could just buy 2 of these, and I think these are under $10. And you could just use an old soda bottle or old plastic bottle of some sort and just screw this on and then use that as your bottle if you don't have a lot of sheep like we do. It's a lot easier because we don't need a bottle every year, so it just depends. So these are awesome just to have laying around. The next thing I have is this, which is Nutrigent. Sometimes when we have a lamb that comes out that not with it yet, we just give them a dose of this, which is just lots of vitamins and stuff to kind of jump start them. This seems to work really, really well. And sometimes when we have like really, really cold nights and we have a lamb born at night, we just give them this just to make sure everything's like kicked into gear, and that way they'll be ready. This works amazing. This can also be for ewes, like if you have a ewe that's for some, like after she lambs and she's just very like tired and drugged down. This also works really well. This you can just get at Tractor Supply or Premier One, wherever. The next thing that we have on hand, just because we do have 17 ewes, so you never know when you're gonna have a bottle lamb, especially where we live, we're about 45 minutes from the nearest Tractor Supply, so you just can't get there, especially if it's snow or ice or whatever. I just buy a multi-species colostrum you can get at Tractor Supply, and it's just, that way it's a small bag, so if you don't use it, it's not really that big of a deal. And we also have other animals. We have cows, and so it's always nice to have that on hand for whatever species. And then eventually, if you do have a bottle lamb, then you can go buy the bigger bag, but you don't want to buy a bigger bag unless you don't have to. So this is enough to like hold us through for a couple days until we have time to get to the store to get what we need. These two things are very important. This is an ear tagger, so you can identify which lambs are which. And this is used as a bander for docking tails because we do not leave the tails on for sheep. Also, taking off tails is the farmer's decision or the breeder, whoever. It just depends on what you're using the sheep for. Show lambs, usually the tail comes off, and it also depends on your breed, so it's totally up to you. These last two items that we have are something that we didn't buy before we started lambing, and then after last couple of years we've had to buy them. So if you don't like hearing about gross things, then you should probably skip ahead because it's kind of disgusting, but whatever. So sometimes during lambing season, you have a ewe that prolapse, which is basically like their insides that aren't the lambs or part of the lambing system is pushed out, and it's very gross for some people. And this is called a spoon, which just goes into their backside to keep everything intact. And prolapses happen for multiple different reasons. So sometimes if they have like multiple lambs and there's just no room, it just has to come out if the lambs aren't ready, and that's just what it is. These work great. You could just tie these onto the sheep's wool and it keeps everything intact. So if you have more than 10, I recommend you have one of these just in case. Because these I got from Premier, so you have to like order them from there unless you're local or close by them, but it usually takes a couple days to get them in the mail depending on where you live. This next thing is a prolapse harness. It's just if it's really bad and the spoon doesn't work, you put that harness on, and then it's very tight. It keeps everything where it needs to be. The only bad thing about that harness is that it's so tight to keep everything in. It's doing its job that sometimes you cannot lamb through that. So you have to be home or watching when you have a ewe that has that on, or you could just use a baler twine technique, which is just tying baler twine over and like connecting it to the wool. There's plenty of videos on that, I'm sure, and that they can usually lamb through because it's not as tight as the harness. So that's just preference. I have the harness just in case I really need it, but I usually don't use that. And the last thing that we use that I don't have in the barn with me is old towels, especially if it's a cold day, to help dry that lamb off, especially if the ewe has more than one and she doesn't really have time, or it's a new mom, and because they take a little bit to lick the lamb off and it's really cold, they'll freeze. So we just help dry them off and take some of that excess slime off. That's also just something if you prefer to do. Also, our barn is not the warmest, so that's why we have the heat lamps. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.